Back once again for the renegade master. 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 Back once again for the renegade master.
Hello my renegades and welcome back. And what are we getting back into? We're getting back into Married at First Sight Australia series 11. We are on episode 20 and we are at the third dinner party. Yes indeed. Yes indeed. But before we get into it, as I always say, please hit that subscribe button, please hit that notification button so you know I'm on and doing videos. And let's talk about this episode, shall we? So it starts off like, we've been talking about Ellie and he's saying that he misses Ellie and that the list was blown out of proportion and that he didn't communicate things as well as he could have. I told you this man's a bitch. This man is a bitch. This is where he consistently will tear her down to pick her back up again. He will push her away to bring her back because he knows that it's worked so many times before. He is a gaslighting little mofo and he's emotionally manipulative, like seriously. And I swear to God, if Ellie ever give this man another chance, I was liable to reach through the screen and grab her the fuck out of that experiment myself. Because if someone literally has to keep you down and then keep picking you up, that doesn't mean that they're not a good person for you. They really are not. Because Ben loves to see Ellie in turmoil. He loves to see her get reactive to how he is. He loves to see her being up and down constantly because he's pulling her like a motherfucking yo-yo from left to right and spinning her around and rocking that motherfucking cradle. Do you know what I mean? So all I can say is this dinner party, it does kind of look like everyone is gearing up to have beef with everybody. Like seriously, Tim is on the warpath with Jaden. Jaden's on the warpath with Tim. The situation between them two ain't going to end well in the slightest because Tim is an old head at the end of the day. And he's stuck from a generation where, you know what, I know better than you. I have more life experience than you. And you as a 20-something-year-old can't tell me shit about life. Can't tell me shit about experiences in terms of relationships. Just because you are on this show and this next experiment and your relationship is going A-okay, you don't know what's happening between me and mine behind closed doors. That's where Timmy's head is at. But sometimes I think the younger generation can learn us old heads something at the end of the day, and I think Tim needed to open himself up to that because at the end of the day, Jaden did hear when Tim sat down on the couch after that commitment ceremony and Lucinda asked him if he was all right, and he literally shut Lucinda down by telling her, don't talk to me, don't speak to me, which was fucking rude of him at the end of the day. And yes, he should have been pulled up about that. But all I'm going to say is the way it went on was fucked up and out of proportion at the end of the day. Lucinda turns around and says that she told Tim not to tell everybody that she's going commando underneath her dress. I could have done without hearing that, to be honest, because I don't want to hear that your, beef curtains are sitting out on a piece of thin fabric on a chair that everybody else is going to sit on. So yeah, I could have done without hearing that, Lucinda. I could have done without it. I am going to say from now, in terms of Tori, because I will get to this situation with Tori and how she was treating Cassandra, but in terms of Tori, when she turns around in her VC and says that, she is on the top and basically indicating that Cassandra isn't, so it essentially should not come for her. I'm just going to say, as a black woman, that don't sit well with me when a person of Tori's complexion says it to a person of Cassandra's complexion at the end of the day. Because my thing is, I don't think Tori would have realised how microaggressive her terminology was in that VC. Like, seriously, it didn't sit well with me. The way how she was going on and the way how she was going at Cassandra within this episode didn't sit well with me and my spirit, because at the end of the day, Tori did not do that with Lauren. Did not say about Lauren in her VC that she is at the top of this food chain basically, and Lauren is nowhere near it. Didn't say that about Lauren. But I'm sorry, the only dark-skinned black woman that you have in this program, and that's the first thing that comes out of Tori's mouth when she decides that she has a bee in her bonnet with Cassandra, did not sit well with me. Didn't like it. Ain't gonna sit well with me at the end of the day, and that's my view on that. But I shall continue on. So you see Sarah and Tim like really warming to each other, and Lauren is talking to Jonathan in the taxi on the way over, basically that she's happy to dead the issue in regards to Jack and that whole scenario. Me, I would be very guarded around Tori and Jack any which way, to be fair, like seriously, because at the end of the day, Jack said what he said, and Tori, as her friend, did not have her back when her husband said something absolutely fucking misogynistic and disgusting to her friend. So I would be very guarded when it came to them two, because I don't trust them as far as I can fucking throw them. So Lauren and John are basically saying that everything is better with them now. Jack is basically saying that he wants no more drama, but at the end of the day, drama's going to follow these two effers around, because they are, in my humble opinion, disgusting human beings. That's my opinion. I don't like them. I don't at all. So Jack decides that he wants to have a chat with Lauren. So when them two walk in, like when Tori and Jack always walk into the room, it's always it ain't greeted with "Hi, how are you?" like everybody else. No, it's always hella awkward. Like seriously, always hella awkward. So Jack decides that he's gonna talk to Lauren. He ain't gonna pull her to the side like he said he was going to pull her to the side. He decides to sit down on the sofa with Tori on one end of Lauren and Jack on the other side of Lauren, and decides to have that discussion with her then. So he apologizes to Lauren for the terminology that he used. And basically, Jack is basically saying that he's ashamed, and the fact that he really is ashamed of the terminology that he uses. It's not normally in his vocabulary. His mum would be ashamed of him, his sister would be ashamed of him, his aunts or whoever else would be ashamed of him. I'm just like, yeah, bullshit. Like absolute bullshit. Because the reason why I'm saying bullshit is because it's literally going to stick in my head is that after that day, that man was in his VC saying how much he liked saying that to Lauren. Like literally like saying how much he said that to Lauren, and that it needed to be said. And even straight after, when Jonathan has said that he shouldn't say that about his wife or talk to her in that manner, his first words was she needed it. So yeah, I don't believe this apology of Jack's. I don't believe the reason why he's giving the apology is bullshit, because it rolled off his tongue too motherfucking easily. Lauren doesn't believe his apology anyway, but says because she just wants to get over it, said that she'll accept it. So basically, Lauren accepts the apology and then apologizes to him too. So this is where Jack thinks that he's found a weakness in Lauren now. So then turns around and Jack starts blaming Lauren as to why he said what he said. And I'm like, my guy, really? Really? No accountability at all? No accountability at all? You just thought this was the time for you to jump in and say to this girl, this is the reason why I said it. Again, Jack is an arsehole. I'm sorry, he's an arsehole. He is an arsehole. So Lauren can't accept his apology in terms of what he's fully saying at face value, because Jack's a dickhead. Like, doesn't accept no accountability for what he's done, what he said, whatever. So yes, we'll move straight on. So Jaden is completely ready to put Tim in his place, and the experts talk about how connected that Jaden and Eden are, especially when they walk in, and the fact that they're always there with each other, talking to each other, and this is why I'm saying Jack and Tori, like, seriously cannot pit themselves as the strongest couple, because they are not. They seriously are not. It's all bluff and bluster with them too, like, seriously. So you see Jaden sit down and literally have a bitch fest, like, seriously have a bitch fest about Tim, because yes, I understand Jaden is protective of Lucinda. Majority of them all are quite protective of Lucinda. Tori and Jack have different motives when it comes to Tim, and this is why I don't understand why Jaden sat there literally berating Tim to Tori and Jack, when he fully knows that Tori and Jack have no love lost with Tim in the slightest, and ain't really fucking all in for Lucinda anyway. They don't really give a shit, just as long as they're getting at the person that they don't like. But hey ho, we shall continue on, shall we not? We shall continue on, because all I know is this confrontation is not going to go well. All I would say at the end of the day, it's about respect. Tim doesn't like people coming at him sideways, and he ain't gonna listen to any of them in this place, except for the people that he respects. Tim, I would say, from the Confessions of Couch, shouldn't have spoken to Lucinda in the way that he did. Lucinda is a lovely person, but she can fight her own battles, and this is what these people are not seeming to realise. Lucinda is not a weak-willed person. Yeah, she's quite a strong woman in terms of her thinking and how she goes about doing her things with intention. She is not stupid, and she is not backwards and coming forwards, do you know what I mean? So she would know if Tim was getting to a point where he was wasting her time, she would leave, she would exit, she would not stay in a situation where she feels he's not salvable. But right now to her it's salvable. Right now to her it's working for both of them. Right now to her relationship is quite good, and they ain't there 24/7. They don't know how them two are interacting with each other. Yes, she wants a little bit more, but she's willing to wait on him and see where that goes to at the end of the day. So these people need to give Lucinda some freaking grace and not treat her like she's one of the fucking dibby galleys up in this place already that literally fall at the drop of the hat every time someone gives them a little bit of positive attention. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying on that. So Jaden comes in and speaks to Lucinda and speaks to her openly in regards to how things are going between her and Tim, because what Jaden also fails to realise is that the shit between Lucinda and Tim is not a black and white issue. There's a lot of intricacies and nuances in their relationship. It's not a yes or no answer. So Lucinda is telling him that she believes that there's a shift. Myself personally, on my opinion, I don't think Tim really, I think Tim respects the hell out of Lucinda. I do think he likes Lucinda up to a point, but I don't think he's romantically in that place with Lucinda, and I don't think he'll ever get there. I do think Lucinda needs to let Tim go the way in which Ellie needs to let Ben go too. That's the only thing I can say on that situation. So Ellie is basically arriving by herself. Kudos to her. And so is Ben. So Ellie comes in and basically tells the girl what happened in regards to Ben running away after the commitment ceremony, you know, because the coward that he is. And Ellie then tells them about the list, but doesn't necessarily read out what was on that list, but literally tells them what happened. Like, he made this list of all these things he did not like about her. Even the experts were motherfucking shocked by that, but, you know, let's continue. As again, I've said, Ben is a gaslighter and emotionally manipulates her to the point where, as again, he will put her down to pick her up, because he knows he's done that before. He hasn't had this stage with Ellie right now, but Ellie is in a space where she's like, I will fuck you off right now, which is good. So Ben is literally on the back foot now, bearing in mind Ben sat in that taxi on the way over, whatever you want to, chauffeur driven car, whatever you want to call it, on the way over to this dinner, telling those producers, telling this camera, telling this VC that he is ready to win this girl over. He sent her these things after he'd said what he said in terms of the photograph where they got married, sent her a lovely note, wanting to make it work. That's where Ben's mindset was at. Remember that. That's where Ben's mindset was at. He went at no other mindset. He was in the mindset of wanting to win this girl back because he believed that their marriage could work, that they could make it work. So you can see that Ben is kind of planning some kind of attack, how he's going to attack this when he gets there, because he's got it in his head that all these people are nice people and that they will galvanize around them or around him per se. I want to say again, I don't like Ben, I don't like Tori, I don't like Jack, and I'm getting to the point where I don't like Tim, but the only reason why I don't like Tim is due to what he's doing to Lucinda. That's the only reason why I don't really like him. So Ben walks in and boom, you would have thought Jack Frost had entered the quarters and literally froze everybody because there was absolute silence. There was no greeting for him whatsoever. It was frosty as hell. Even when he turned to the girls and he said, "All right, girls," they didn't speak to him, they didn't acknowledge him, nothing. So then he goes over to Ellie. It was awkward as hell between the both of them. Like, I don't know if he's trying to go in for a kiss and then trying to go and hold her hand, but she would not let him anywhere near her person like that. And basically he said, "Can I have a chat with you?" Now this is the point where I think Ben literally was going to tell Ellie, "Look, I really want to make this work with you. This is where my head is at. X, Y, and Z." But before he could have that conversation, the man come out, tap the glass, dinner is served. I'm like, yeah, saved by the motherfucking bell, because you know what? You needed that to see the true focus of who Ben is, like, seriously. So everybody goes in. Ben is fully uncomfortable at this point. And I'm like, of course you're uncomfortable, you dickhead. How did he expect this to go? Like, seriously. So Ellie feels uncomfortable because she's literally having to sit next to this man. So Ben's still not held himself accountable in the slightest. So Tori and Jack are the ones that bring up that, you know, to Ben, Ellie came alone. And then Ellie tells Ben that she's told everyone about the list that he wrote about her. So I was like, oh, here we go. Here we go. Do you think Ben says anything in which to defend himself, to say anything of sense? No. Ben, again, goes with the silent tact like he always does when he gets called out for bullshit. So Lauren turns around and quietens up the table and says, "Let's hear from Ben because we've heard from Ellie. So let's hear what he's got to say." So now Ben has the table. Ben again is quiet. And I'm like, so hold on. You had all this mouth in which to tell this woman X, Y, and Z when you two were together. But now you're in front of everybody else, you ain't got the mouth for the brass balls to tell them exactly what you said to this girl. This is how I know this man is a dickhead. A full-on dickhead. Lauren starts in again and talks about the commitment ceremony and asks Ben what happened after that because they hadn't seen him. Ben says heaps. So Ben's basically saying he didn't want the convo with Ellie to take 2 hours. So Ellie then pipes up and says, "But you made a list of things that you didn't like about me." So Ben is basically saying that he didn't actually make a list about her. And everyone was like, what? What? Even Cassandra was like, "You wrote a list?" So I was like, okay. So Ben turns around and says, "I didn't write it out." And I'm like, that makes it any better, my guy. Like, that makes it any better, but we shall continue. He then said he had a booklet with dot points. And Cass said in her VC, Ben can take that list and shove it up his arse. How dare he make a list of the things that he does not like about his wife? Who is he to do that? So I was like, yeah, pick up yourself, Cass, because I was thinking the same motherfucking thing. I don't know who Ben thinks he is. So Ellie talked about the list and raised a thing about Ben saying that he didn't really like her wearing makeup. Andrea's, you can see her antennas went ping, because in her books, this has probably been something that's happened to her, and it's textbook gaslighting. So Ben said, again, with the whole Placid thing, it was a stupid and dumb thing for him to say. And, you know, he didn't really mean that in regards to him saying that. And I'm like, my guy, you wrote it down and you read it back to her. So you did mean what you said. Like, seriously, you did mean what you said. And this is why I said this is what Ben does. He hides behind a meek and mild persona, pretends to take accountability, but then fucking wants to then try and do damage control, because this is Ben trying to do damage control. And I'm like, how has this guy got by in life, in real life? Like, seriously, how has he got by in life? So basically Ben's response to that was, I didn't say I didn't want her to wear makeup. My guy. But that's what you're indicating by saying she wears too much of it. I'm like, at the end of the day, this is the point where Ben really needs to shut his mouth, because he is literally making matters worse. He's coming off worse than Jack right now when that is saying something. Like, seriously, that is saying something. So somebody asked, I don't know who it was, is why did you write it? And he turns around and says that he has not got no sisters, but Ellie spends a lot of time in the mirror. I have no words. I have no words for this man. I don't understand why he's on this show. Like, I literally have no words for this man, and how nasty that comment was. Like, seriously. So Ellie turns around and says that he also says, I'm too sensitive and too emotional. And I'm like, well, if you've been in a room for 2.5 hours listening to that diatribe, then you would get sensitive and emotional. As again, Ben is full of shit. Ben has said, kept on saying through the episode that he keeps coming off with this fact that Ellie's emotional. She's a woman. She keeps getting emotional. And again, this man has been showing Ellie who he is time and time again with the same old fucking pattern of behaviour. But I'll give her a bly. At the wedding, she wanted to give this man a chance. Honeymoon, they got on okay. When it came to the flats, that's when things literally started to fall apart, and he was doing his shit. Yeah, and this is at the point where Ellie should have been looking rather carefully, especially taking heed of the warnings of what her cousin said in regards to Ben. And each time their friends were either bringing up something or coming to the couch, she needed to have stopped defending that fucking idiot right there. So, because he literally couldn't wing his way out of a paper bag, because he doesn't know how to explain, he doesn't know how to converse, he doesn't know how to communicate in any way, shape or form. That should have told Ellie something. So this man turned around and blamed Ellie for the situation at hand. And this is why I'm saying, yeah, Ben likes to do things behind closed doors, but doesn't necessarily like to do this shit out in the open. And that's why he was trying in past episodes to control the narrative that Ellie was trying to put out there. And that's why he kept on standing next to her. I think it was the last episode, or no, not the last episode, the episode before, where they were having some type of dinner party. I think the second dinner party. And he kept on standing next to the girls when Ellie was trying to speak her truth with the girls. He would not let her do that, and there's a reason for that. So Ellie turns around and says to Ben to say something real, as there is a falseness about him. Ben's responds with, that's hearsay, and I'm like, oh my lord. So Ben turns around and says, the truth is, I don't believe we are meant to be with each other. And this is where he literally makes it all Ellie's fault. This is where he literally dumps this girl at the table. Bearing in mind, Ellie had already fucked him off. Yeah, so this is Ben saving face at this point. This is Ben saving his literal ass into not making it look like this girl has not dumped me because I dumped you first. This is the games, the childish junior school games this guy is playing right now at the table in front of everyone. He did that in front of everybody, and I thought, how could you throw this girl out there like that? How could you fuck this girl over in the way that you're doing at this table and think this is okay? Like, seriously think this is okay? How in the hell did they vet this man for this girl? And this is how I know Ben must have lied on that application. He must have lied on that application, because there ain't no way. There ain't no way. And I bet you anything he will come back with this act to say he was boxed in a corner by everybody and be the woe is me. And I'm just like, yeah, he's playing a literal game with this man, with this girl's mind. He's literally fucking Ellie's mind over consistently. And he's doing it on purpose to persistently hurt Ellie. That's what he's doing it for. Benny's a very sick man. But he didn't finish there. He turned around and he carried on with, I do believe that we are better off as friends, and that he was sorry for wasting her whole time. That man was lucky he weren't dealing with someone like me, because I would have likely have either gone for him or dashed a drink in his face, or I would have said to someone, you better move this man from my motherfucking face before I am liable to flip a lid and dash him right in his clot. Someone would have had to come and move him from the motherfucker. Do you think I would shed a tear for that fucker right there at that table? Hell the fuck no. I would have put his whole shit on blast and said, how dare you come to this table to try and front me in my face like this, when in the next breath, after you'd said the shit that you said on your little shit list, yeah, you sent me X, Y, and Z and wanted us to get back on track. So how are now you sitting at this table in front of these people trying to say that you're breaking up with me, when you know full well you were trying to win me back 5 minutes ago? That's what I would have done. I wouldn't have been brooding no tears with this man. I would have put the man on literal blast. Like literal blast. Yeah. So let's move on from there, because Tim is literally at this point burning holes in Jaden. Like, seriously, his face is red and he's ready to fire off. Like, seriously ready to fire off. But my thing is Tim thinks he played a coy game by turning to Lauren to say what he needed to say out loud, mentioning Jaden's name loudly, rather than, you know, going straight to Jaden, who was sitting at the table across from him, and saying what he needed to say. So Lauren says, well, why don't you have that conversation with Jaden? So Jaden pipes up and says, I heard my name being mentioned, what's going on? So Tim basically turned around and said, wow, I've heard you say X, Y, and Z in terms of Lucinda, saying that you believe that she's shortchanged. So Jaden basically steps up and says, yeah, this is why I said it. Lucinda does try to step in and diffuse the situation. And I'm like, Lucinda, Tim is already on that train. He's already on that train and gunning for Jaden, because he ain't going to have the bullshit that's coming out of this boy's mouth. So Jaden basically says that he was checking up on Lucinda. So Jaden says that he heard what Tim had said to Lucinda on the couch. And Tim, albeit, admitted it. And basically Tim had turned around and said that he was angry because he felt that Lucinda threw him under the bus. So Lauren piped up and said, Lucinda did not throw you under the bus. And I'm like, it's true. Lucinda really did not throw him under the bus. Lucinda was literally speaking her truth. And the only reason why she spoke her truth at that point in time, it wasn't until Alessandria turned around and said that sounded like friendship, when they were talking about what they're doing with each other in their day. And then that's when Lucinda spoke her truth, and Tim did not like it. So the women all do rally round, except for Tori, I will say. Rally round Lucinda and tell her, while more Sarah and Lauren tell her not to blame herself. as again, Lucinda is always the contrite one. She's always correcting herself with Tim. And even like at the family and friends week, it took Tim's friends to literally get Tim to say an apology to Lucinda for the way that he behaved, and he did do so. So Jaden turns around and asks Lucinda at the table if she is disappointed that he's getting nothing from Tim in any way, shape or form. And Lucinda basically says that right now she's dropped her expectations. And again, this is Lucinda having to move for Tim and make the changes. I would ask again, why is Tim there? Like, seriously, why is he there? What is he cultivating with Lucinda? Because I don't see it myself. So Tim is still doing a death stare at Jaden as he's speaking to Lucinda. Lucinda again defends Tim. And Tim says that Jaden has it all wrong. And again, this is where I'll say, between Tim and Lucinda, so as the experts say, it's not a black and white situation when it comes to Tim and Lucinda. There's nuances in regards to their relationship and how it's working at the moment, which is true. So basically, when Jaden's asking Tim whether he sees a future with Lucinda or not, it's not a yes or no answer. And that's not fair for Jaden to literally put Tim on the spot in that manner, because at the end of the day, right now, I don't think everybody in that room can literally say, yes, I see a relationship with this person beyond the experiment, because they don't know that in the slightest at that point in time, until they probably get to that penultimate time where they decide whether they're going to make a go of it or not. So my thing is that within this situation, like, especially when Lucinda's trying to talk, when people are coming at at Tim in regards to the relationship that he has with Lucinda, Lucinda's voice kind of gets dropped behind and lost. But this time, Lucinda was like, no more, no, I'm literally going to speak. So you see Lucinda try and calm things, and Tim does not want Jaden to tell him anything. So Tim talks about how then Jaden's grandstanding and believes that Jaden thinks he's holier than thou, and this is when the insults start to fly. That basically Tim is literally, when Tim gets angry, he gets dirty. He gets dirty with his insults by literally saying that he doesn't, like, Jaden doesn't matter in the world. His life is X, Y, and Z. It's disgusting. Lucinda doesn't really accept that, and she doesn't like it. But she speaks to Tim in her own way about how Tim has spoken to Jaden. Now, this is what I mean about being adult about it. She doesn't have to let fly in front of everybody else. She can take Tim to one side, as she did at the table, yeah, unbeknownst to fucking Tori, because Tori, yeah, that's all I'm going to say in that sense, did my motherfucking Sweden on this episode. Like, seriously did, because I'm like, who the fuck is she? Like, who is she really? Who is she really? She ain't Judge, Jury, and extra fucking executioner. And how dare she say the shit that she said and have the audacity to, bearing in mind who she's linked herself to. So, Tim explodes, basically, and starts, he does hit the table and rail. But then, Jaden goads him as well. Jaden is goading him all the fucking way in this. So it ain't a one-sided situation here. So Lucinda turns around and says that Tim is an awesome person, and Tori has to jump in. Of course, we've heard it. So Lucinda has to say to him, I haven't finished, and I will say my piece at the end of the day. So, you know, Tori winds your neck in. And my thing is if my girl, as in Tori, can defend her man, as in Jack, and expect people to listen, yeah, then she can give Lucinda the grace to literally discuss what she needs to discuss. And I'm like, Tori's enjoying this shit to the hilt, like, seriously. So Lucinda does talk about the fact that it has been a rough week for them both, and the fact that they were living in separate apartments and now Tim's come back to the apartment. And there's been a massive shift between the both of them, and the fact that they've had full conversations. And in Friends and Family Week, her dad verbally kicked Tim's ass, and Tim attested to that fact and really had all the time in the world for Lucinda's dad. So Cassandra and Wiz in her VC, she turned around, she says, other couples should not be judging Tim and Lucinda, especially when their own fucking marriages aren't on point as they should be at the end of the day. So in terms of what Cassandra was saying, that they're underestimating Lucinda in the fact that she's a grown woman and knows herself, is absolutely true. They underestimate Lucinda and her ability to connect with Tim, because they're seeing it as Tim is this big bad person. He's doing X, Y, and Z to Lucinda. I don't like all the actions that Tim takes towards Lucinda. I really don't, because I think Lucinda has had to dim her light a little bit within this experiment to accommodate Tim, and I don't like that at all. I don't. But at the end of the day, Lucinda is a triad, but she ain't stupid. She ain't stupid in the slightest. So at this point, I am glad that the whole table is managing to hear what it is that she has to say. And it's the fact that Michael and Stephen actually speak up on her behalf and have that conversation with her, that she's able to put across what it is that she's thinking and feeling at this point in time. She literally had Tim's back, and she loved having his back, because at the end of the day, she was like, no. Give props where it's due. That was our situation then, but our situation has moved within that week. So stop it, all of you, basically. So Tori, in the back of her fucking throat, is telling Lucinda to shut up. So again, Tori turns to Lucinda and says to Lucinda, well, you just heard Tim say you have nothing in life to someone else. That's disgusting. I'm like, Tori was just waiting for her turn to get at Tim. Lucinda says that she understands it and she didn't like the things that Tim was said, but she said she would also talk to him, and she did. She talked to Tim about how that came off and about how it wasn't her jam and how it felt to her, and the fact that he needs to be careful because of the perceptions that other people have of him when he says these things. And this is what I mean. Her and Tim literally had this full-on conversation at the table about the stuff that he did say to Jaden. And Tim did turn around to Lucinda and said she's the only person that could pull him up like that, and he would listen to her. He has mad respect for this woman. And this is what Tori and everybody else at that table is missing. So I think the way that Tim was looking at Lucinda, I was like, okay, is he feeling something? Because you know what? She had him 100 tonight. Like, seriously, was at his back tonight. Tori didn't like it at all. So Tori tried to call Tim out again, and she honestly said out of her mouth, I could not stand by a man the way that Tim displayed himself today. I said, my girl, you stood by your man when your man literally told another husband to put a fucking muzzle on his fucking wife. That's worse. You stood by your man in his misogynistic motherfucking glory. So pull the other one, Tori. No, seriously, pull the other one, because you know what? It is what Cassandra is saying. Projection. Full-on projection onto the other couples, because you know you and Jack ain't where you're supposed to be, especially after the fucking conversation you had on the motherfucking couch. So Tori turns around and said that Tim looked a little smug, and now she said this shit twice. So Tori was in her bag. She had so much fucking anger emanating from herself at this point in time that she really wanted to go for Tim, but she couldn't get the best of Tim. Let's just put it that way. She couldn't get the best of Tim, and that's why she turned her attentions to Cassandra when Cassandra decided to speak up. So Tori turns around and then basically talks about the fact that, you know, she has a voice and she will speak. And then Tim must have asked her a question around the fact of, like, you know, so does Jack tell you when to speak then? So holier than thou, Tori turns around and said, if Jack said to me, don't talk to me, as in the comment that Tim had said to Lucinda, her foot would more than likely go down his throat. So Tim literally throws at her. But you had no problem with Jack saying, muzzle your lady. Tori soon went quiet. She went quiet because she had nothing to come back with that. She had nothing to come back with that because it was right. And even Lauren didn't defend her at that point because Lauren was looking as if to say, well, yeah, that's fucking true, my friend. That's true. You accepted what he said there. So how is this any fucking different? Also, they could have went one step further and says, better yet, Tori had no problem with Jack in the joke about passing her around other men. So I think Tori needs to just zip that shit. But no, Tori doesn't stop there because Tori thinks she's this big I fucking am. She really put herself on this type of pedestal to say that she's the big cheese in this place and people are going to listen and to respect her. So basically, Tori's trying to say that she had no problem with it. No, you had no problem with it, my girl. You had no problem with it at all with what Jack said at that table because you literally went at Lauren and blamed Lauren for how that situation went down. So you're full of shit. And Tim was firing back on Tori like everything your mouth. Tori could not get the better of him and it was making her more angrier and angrier and angrier. So Cassandra then turns around and says to her, because she literally turns around and says to her that, you know, she called Tim smug and she said it twice. So Cassandra does pipe up and say that, you know, you literally was calling Tim smug and that's not who Tim is, that's just his face. He's sitting there smiling, conversing with other people, and you've just literally started picking on him out of nowhere. Tori did not like that because Tori was basically saying, and this is where, as I said already, she goes with the comment of she is top dog basically, and that's where not Cassandra is. So Cassandra needs to go to a little pool of fish and pick her fights there basically. Tori's full of shit. That's all I can say. Tori is full of shit. So at the end of the day, Tori can sit there and tell Lucinda what Tim had said to Jaden, but Cassandra can't tell her what she had said to Tim, even though she said it twice, that Tim was looking rather smug. So she decided in her infinite wisdom, Tori decided that she was going to knock this smugness off of Tim, but she couldn't get the better of him. So then she turned her attentions and her literally bullyhood to her next victim, which was Cassandra, because Cassandra brought it up to the forefront. And she said, at the end of the day, that's Tim's face. You started a situation where there was none. Tori didn't like that because she didn't want Cassandra to be defending Tim. Cassandra's a grown-ass woman. You can't tell her who she can be friends with, and B, who she can defend. At the end of the day, the people at that table seeing you acting like an absolute fucking bully. And that's what Tori is. The same with Jack. Absolute fucking bullies, the both of them. And then she wanted to come for Cassandra. The one thing I will say is I do like the fact that Michael stood with Cassandra as well and said what he said to Cassandra across the table in regards to, I don't understand what's going on here, but yes, you were right to put her in her place, X, Y, and Z. So you see, literally Tori have this issue with Cassandra eyeballing her down, and I'm like, my girl, don't even go there. Like, seriously, don't go there. So basically she turned around, Tori in her VC then turns around and says, oh, you know, Cassandra's always been quiet, but every time she opens her mouth, she has a problem with her. It gets on her nerves. And I'm like, my girl, you need to unpick that shit, because I don't understand what Cassandra supposedly done to you, but she ain't done shit. At the end of the day, Cassandra only speaks when she sees there's a situation that she feels the need to speak on. She doesn't necessarily have to keep jumping the gun with all of you fuckers at the end of the day. And she's going to defend those that are closer to her, which is Lucinda and Tim. So what Tori needs to do is get back in her little Jack in the Box and press that fucking lid and stay there. That's what she really needs to do, because she needs to leave Cassandra alone. Like, seriously needs to leave Cassandra alone. But that is where that episode ended. But I'll be back with the next episode as soon as I can. As I always say, please hit that subscribe button, please hit that notification button for when you know I'm on and doing videos, and I'll be back on your screens very, very soon. Peace out.